First, thank you so much for Women of the Future to invite me to this event. I think it's really great to have so many excellent and outstanding speakers together to address Web3. And for me, I would like to really special thank to Women of the Future to feature me as one of the top 100 women of the future in the edition of this year. This is really great to also encourage myself to do more in this field. So today I would like to share with you the topic about token economy and the regenerative finance. In fact, this is a really big topic. I find it's very important to let everybody understand the whole picture. So first, a little bit about myself. Well, my name is Sunny. I'm based in the Netherlands. I have a computer science and international business background. And in the recent years, I did quite a lot of practice and also activities in Web3 domain. So here you can see some major one. I participated 4 times hackathon, including 2 times in Ethereum Global. We won many prizes in East Global, New York, and also San Francisco last year. And on top of that, of course, there's a lot of interaction with for instance, Polkadot, with consensus, also with Ethereum. On top of that, I'm also mentoring a lot of programs. Maybe mention 2 of that. One is that I am a mentor in Frankfurt School Blockchain Center. That is an educational program for global talents to really learn the new concept, for instance, NFT, DeFi, DLT, and the Bitcoin. So really is a great program, and really have to highlight that because it's free. It's free, and it's only that there is a kind of a selection process, and we just will start the new program in July for NFT talent and also Bitcoin talent. And another highlight that I'm also mentoring MaasVentures, which is based in London. That is one of the largest Web3 accelerator in the world. And really great to interact with several top startups because their admission rate is around 3%. And of course, I also speak in many occasions. So we're happy today here with all of you and to address dive deeper into tokenomics and also regenerative finance. So before talking about tokenomics, I think it's good that we first review a little bit where are we now. The whole crypto scene, let's say if we count the starting point as when white paper of Bitcoin has been released, that is around 2008, 2009. So from that point, well, maybe it's funny. The first 2 years after the white paper of Bitcoin released, the whole price of Bitcoin climbing from 0 to $1 in 2 years. And after that, there are several other coins launched, for instance, Litecoin or the other coin. And then a remarkable event is in 2014 when the smart contract platform Ethereum is created. That really make a lot of difference because it's allowed to interact and to executive function in smart contract. That's why we have so many applications now, for instance, NFT and a lot of DeFi, a lot of applications are built, in fact, on top of a smart contract platform like Ethereum. And then in 2017, we have a stablecoin, the first stablecoin. So that really is a milestone because that's paved the way for the future of finance. There was a huge variety of crypto, so we need a stablecoin to balance it. And then in 2019, DeFi, decentralized finance concept came, and then around 2020, the NFT concept came, and everybody knows 2021 is the hype of an NFT, and at that moment also metaverse concept came up. So, so this is our landscape at this moment. So we don't know what will happen next year, but it's very exciting to see the whole technology and also space evolves every day. So one thing to highlight is that we are now exactly in the critical moments when compared to internet era in kind of 1990s. So what we are now, where we are now, is similar to kind of 1998 or 1997. If you compare the user of the total user of internet to the total crypto user, that means the wallet owner, and now. So what I want to highlight is a kind of called Xenoverse 3.5% of rule. This is a very interesting rule. It says once around 3.5% of the whole population has begun to participate to a movement, no matter what kind of movement is, and then the success will appear to be inevitable. So till now, we have around 300 million crypto users. So while that is in fact already 3.8% of whole population. So I would say the success of the crypto, the success of Web3 is inevitable in this sense. Why blockchain has power? Because the two major things in blockchain is decentralization and the tokenization. Decentralization allows us to address things everywhere. That is exactly what, for instance, now the big institute like banks, they realize that's also benefit to them, because you can provide borderless services, payment services, for instance. And the tokenization means everything, because the token, that's what exactly I would like to address today, represents value. And everything, if you see that as asset, see that as a value, it can be tokenized. So that's why the blockchain is very powerful. If I use the quote from Professor Philip Sandner from Frankfurt School Blockchain Center, he said, there will be no finance, no capital market without blockchain. I fully believe it. So the impact of blockchain can be huge. So it could impact what we are already very familiar with, for instance, financial inclusion, digital inclusion, especially the sustainability goal, the SDG. That's something I would combine in the regenerative finance, and give us freedom and also support us to grow the economy. So what is token? Because when we talk about token economy, it's important first to understand what is token. And only this slide can talk about 1 hour, so I want to shorten it. So basically, my understanding of token is the internet native unit of value. Because we step into Web3, we step into internet of value, and every token, in fact, represents a piece of value. So if we classify the token, I would use the definition from MiCA, which the regulation will be launched next year. And the token probably will be classified in 3 groups. That is utility token, payment token, and a security token. So no matter what kind of token you're launching, you should fit one of them. So for the utility token, for instance, it could be a governance token. For instance, a DAO, they launch a token to just give access to for the member to access their services. That's a utility. That is a utility. That also can represent digital identity. For instance, represent a person's identity, the future identity using the way as a token. And if it's payment token, I would special highlight, for instance, stablecoin CBDC. Though it's not necessarily the central bank digital currency will use token or blockchain technology, but it's possible. So on the other hand, it's very interesting concept of a security token, which regards token as a security. That is also the area that I'm most active in at this moment, because security token is fully compliant with the regulation, and for instance, KYC, AML, and especially if you are familiar with tokenization of a real-world asset, the only way to go is to comply. So security token is the way to go. And a little bit mentioned about the standards. Of course, we have a fungible token. That is what we are familiar with, the standard, the normal, for instance, cryptocurrency, they are fungible token, ERC20. We have non-fungible token. That's what we mentioned about NFT. So, and in fact, we also have semi-fungible token, and maybe not everybody is familiar with it, but semi-fungible token is already there, and I can foresee in the near future we'll have a wide application in semi-fungible token as well. And with the token, we can do a lot of things in the decentralized finance, in the regenerative finance, in the public sector. That's what I mean, all the industry, all, I mean, really all, for instance, life science and health, agriculture, industry 4.0, whatever you name it, as long as you say those as assets, there's value, you can tokenize it. Of course, also private sector. Of course, also public sector, for instance, the government, the public services, something like this. So, okay, now let's address a little bit what is token economy. I think the future of economy for sure will be token economy if we step into decentralized future. That exactly reflects the power of the many. My understanding of blockchain, because sometimes people give a very narrow definition of blockchain. They say that as a program, a software program, they say that it's just a database, that's just an immutable database, or it's a software. It's true, but it's more than that, far more than that, because blockchain use the nodes and use the worldwide computation. They created a novel way to organize people, society, and the capital. This, you can't say this, for instance, in the other pure technology like AI, like for instance IoT, because they are just technology itself. But blockchain is a phenomenon. It's a culture, so it's much more than that. And the biggest challenge, in fact, for decentralized future is coordination. That's the core of the core. So think about that. If you coordinate a so-called community in 10,000 people or 1 million people even, so how do you coordinate that? Because normally a company, if we are familiar with a startup, it's around 10 people or 100 people. If we are in a corporate, maybe we have 1,000 employee or several thousand. But if you need to coordinate millions of people to drive the same goal, how can you do that? That is exactly why we need to talk about token economy, because that's the only way we can enable the economic running of the decentralized future by using of the token. What I mean is that it's an era of co-investments, co-create, co-own. So it's everything is about co. So it will change dramatically about the way how we own things, the way how we align things, the way how we create incentive to do things together, and how do we access the goods and services. Those, in fact, are the core of the token economy. So, but not all the token will work, because, for instance, at this moment, there are a lot of token created. To be frank, after this talk, I can just spend 10 minutes to create a new token, but there's no meaning, because creating a token, if the token doesn't represent the value, there's no meaning of creating it. So, what kind of token will have a value and will really drive the economy? We have to think about several principles. First, the token should really solve a coordination problem. In fact, the excellent case of solving the coordination problem is the most popular and successful blockchain ecosystem now. For instance, the Bitcoin, for instance, Ethereum. You think about that is just a blockchain. No, they solve a big coordination problem, because all the miners, all the nodes, they are be coordinated worldwide. That's why the whole blockchain is unstoppable. And we have to also look the clear utility and the demand. What are the driver to really drive the utility with using that token? And very important is how does this token create value, and the very clear reward structure. Because in the traditional employment relationship, we have a kind of a paper-based contract. The contract says, okay, you work for me full time, and you work in this scope, and then I pay you like that. So how can we coordinate, for instance, if we have millions of people working for Ethereum, how do they pay them? So that's exactly is the consensus and the reward structure. For instance, how Ethereum created, and how the miner, if they mine and they works to make a block on chain, and they get reward. So everything is automatically, and it's also very important to understand when we work for something, the contribution itself should be recognized, and the value should be distributed in a good way. In fact, if we look at this, you may immediately think about DAO. Yes, a decentralized or autonomous organization. That is really the future of organization. Think about it. I always was wondering, for instance, now the consultancy company, if it's big enough, maybe they have 10,000 or maybe 5,000, 3,000 consultants worldwide. To be frank, we can really build a consultant DAO with calling 1 million consultant. I really sometimes have a dream. For instance, if we call in all the Web3 consultants, I can imagine in the near future we can easily gather in 10,000 or 50,000 of people, and we use the token economy to coordinate this, and then that's really will create a new kind of empire of consulting. So the whole token economy, in fact, is really give us freedom and a new way to build our own empire. What I mean that is that, in fact, when you utilize the token and make it workable, in fact, you are building similar like building a country. You are not only need to concern about, for instance, the governance. You also need to think about what kind of currency is in my country. For example, if you are president of a country, you need to think about this then. But that exactly is in the blockchain ecosystem. If you are creating a token economy, you need to think about you are a president of a country. How do you governance your country, and how do you incentive people to work for you? How do you pay them, and how do you coordinate relationship with them? How do you make the economy running? So this is really fantastic, because you can create all virtual countries. For instance, in the topic of climate change, in the topic of art, in the topic of fashion, whatever. So that's really opens the door for everyone to be part of it in any direction if you're interested about. So there are several future chains that we can apply token economy. One, of course, is the creator economy, which we already experienced in 2010 or 2021. The hype, of course, the hype, you can't avoid that. Those kind of scam you can't avoid, because it's natural in all the development phase. Go back to 100 years ago when we first time we have bank, it's also the same. There will be scam. If there's money, there will be scam. And also very fascinating is the data economy, and also somehow address the privacy. And that's a really huge topic at this moment, because I notice all the trend and they all start to develop, for instance, privacy, or for instance, using zero knowledge and to preserve the privacy and for the data. And on the other hand, like education research, that's really Web3 education is a huge topic, and I don't think it has already a good solution at this moment. So it's a chance for everyone to use tokenomics to try it out. And of course, all of this should be based on or should be backed up by regulations, because the regulations provide clarity to all of us, that we know what we can do, what's the way to go. And slowly, I think all of this will catch up, because Web3 really evolves so fast. But while on the other hand, we should have patience and allow this to take some time to develop, because we only developed several years, right? And starting from Bitcoin white paper release, it's all around more than 10 years. It's just a little bit time. So we should allow us to have more time to develop on that. And among all of this, I would especially highlight about the carbon and carbon for the carbon credit and the climate action, because that's really one of the biggest markets we can address or use in token economy. That is exactly relevant to my next topic, is about regenerative finance. I think maybe not everyone is familiar with regenerative finance. I heard about this concept, in fact, I think maybe 2 years ago in one of the events. Really first time to heard about somebody talk about regenerative finance. I know regenerative medicine, but what is regenerative finance? It's all about, in fact, concern about life, concern about our environments, and of course, that's relevant to the climate. So when we talk about climate, we have to first talk about the Paris Agreement, which identify that we need to reduce the carbon emissions 45% less by 2030, and we should reach net zero by 2050. So this is the goal of Paris Agreement. And very interesting to know that, in fact, 80% of for the Fortune 500 company committed to the climate targets. It's very somehow interesting is that only 5% of them has clear plan. Why? Because this is really complex topic to address. And then if we talk about the climate targets, there are 3 types. So either is carbon neutral, that means emission at zero, as much as possible, close to zero, or use clean or green or renewable energy, or it's based on the target of control the global warming and to control the emission in a scientific way. So what exactly is regenerative finance? I would say there's no definite let's say definition at this moment. It's similar like the concept of metaverse, because it's just startup. So but we can discuss a little bit from the description of some pioneers and also some experts, how they say what is regenerative finance. So maybe interesting to mention that from Paul Hawken, and the environmentalist, he said the regenerative means putting life at the center of every action. So for whatever action, we should concern about the life itself. So in the traditional way, for instance, traditional finance, it's more about addressing profits, addressing revenue. It ignores, for instance, the impact to the environment and also impact to the sustainable future. So regenerative finance, in fact, is a concept to make a systematic change, to design a new system, which when you act, you contribute positively to the future. So when compare a little bit the conventional system and the regenerative system, it's worth to mention traditionally, what we drive for the finance, we drive for profits, we drive for maximize the value, and we drive for growth, and we drive capital, right? And so in fact, many of these growth is at the expenses of planning on the community, and somehow some activities is not sustainable at all. And the whole economic health is a separate part from what we can be running sustainably in the future. While the regenerative system address complete difference compared to conventional system, it's concerned about the healthy growth. It's concerned about the whole planning, the community and the planning, and it's concerned about the growth itself should promote the health of the planet as well. So this is very interesting because if we look, in fact, since last year, the end of last year, the World Economic Forum already started to form a coalition to address crypto in climate actions. So this is very interesting. And they also, together with United Nations, I think they came up with several recommendations what we should target, we should do for the climate action. Well, in fact, if you look at it here, well, how to drive the commitment into action is something, in fact, very challenging. And several of the recommendations, for instance, using voluntary credit, that is exactly relevant to Web3, relevant to blockchain. And if you look at setting the target, of course, every company can set. I understand that they don't have a clear plan how to do it. This is what I learned from the last week when I was in Cannes lines, and I heard from one of the panelists from Amazon. They say it takes 1 year, 1 full year to make the plan. So I understand if this is a situation in them, it will be similar to all the other Fortune 500 company, because it's a lack of tools, lack of methodology and approach to help them to achieve that goal. This is exactly why Web3 and regenerative finance can help. And if we look what we already did in this field, in fact, already quite some Web3 companies are active here. For instance, if you heard about Token, I think they did really excellent to build an infrastructure for digital carbon market. And you heard about Thinking, I know several of them, they are building the blockchain and marketplaces. And also many of them focus on really different, building the whole ecosystem of ReFi, the ReFi ecosystem. So because we need to verify, for instance, the carbon credit, we need to verify it. We need to make a marketplace to make it treatable. We need to really make it credible of the whole credit, the carbon credit records. So all the company here, you can say already, I would say 30 or 40, or for sure more than that, are already active to address this challenge. And so it's still early, but I should say the whole of the ReFi ecosystem for sure will be built on top of token, because if you don't use of token and stimulate token economy, you're not able to coordinate it. Again, go back to what I explained, the token economy. It is all about coordination. So how to use this system, ReFi system, to better contribute to the challenge of carbon emission and to achieve net zero. It exactly is something that we should utilize the token economy, and we should really design a very good system to make everything running. And this is not just like Rome is not built in one day, and this for sure will take many years. But I'm very happy to say in such an early stage, already so many company startups are already active to position themselves, or also dedicated to a specific angle to contribute to the ecosystem. So sum up a little bit is that our future for the decentralized future for sure is tokenized future, because only the token economy works, the decentralized future has a future, because otherwise it's not running at all. And on the other hand, we will slowly move from traditional finance to decentralized finance, and again upgrade to regenerative finance. So so in this talk, I am not diving into all the details of the composition of ReFi, for instance, also the details of the tokens itself, but just gave a general impression, and also the framework, why do they matter, and why those are important concepts. In fact, everybody in the Web3 space should know, because no matter what, if you are doing, for instance, more in the metaverse, in NFT, or in the other use cases, or you're more focused on a niche application, you can't ignore the impact to the whole environment, or to the sustainability. And that is exactly maybe the last point is that we just launched this week in the Dutch during the annual conference of Dutch Blockchain Coalition, and the first working group in the Netherlands for carbon credits. So we are going to define, design, and launch a carbon credit token in the near future as the token in the Netherlands to help the companies to really realize their net zero goal. So on the other hand, I understand end of this year, there's a huge event, the climate conference from United Nations called COP28 will happen, I think will be held in Dubai. So if you are if you work in this area, or you are interested about regenerative finance, you're interested about refi, please feel free to contact me. And this is QR code for my own personal websites. From there, you can link to my LinkedIn and also Twitter. So I'll be very happy to connect and also to discuss what we can cooperate in the future. So let me conclude with this talk with using these quotes. The best way to predict future is to create. So it's all about what we do now. So thank you very much.